Hello everyone, welcome back to my Living Lore Q&A for my fantastic world of Venice. My name is Alice, and I'm here to talk about the wide and wondrous world of Venice. I see that we already have a couple of people here. Welcome Vlad, welcome Awkward Dictator, and both of you welcome Lukey, who is here on my Discord to chat. I finally have my Discord audio working, so you should be able to hear them. Lukey, would you like to say hi?
Hello.
Fantastic. Lukey is a former player in my world. He played a paladin warlock from the continent of Albion. So, launching right in, we can get into questions about the world. Now, until I have the money to commission a fantastic world map like my Salica map, this will have to suffice, my hand-drawn one right here. If anybody needs this displayed, please just leave a comment in the chat and I can pull it back up for you. In the meantime, let's get to questions. Anyone, step up to the plate. Lukey, you're welcome to ask questions as well. Part of the reason why I invite players and former players into this is because you have a little bit more familiarity with the world. So perhaps in your time playing with me, there was something that I left unanswered for you, something that you were curious about. Feel free to ask that here.
It was a long time ago.
It was indeed. I can give you a bit of a refresher if you would like.
That would definitely help.
Haha. Okay, a quick refresher for you then. Lukey, as you certainly recall, you played a paladin warlock who had sworn an oath to the Lord Evaness, Lord of Darkness and Vanishing. And my apologies, my headphones just decided to cut out. Anyway, having sworn an oath to the Lord Evaness, Lord of Darkness and Vanishing, you went to train in Kettermorn, on the continent of Kettermorn, rather, in the holy city of Duskmorrow. And from there, after a bit of training, we're set to go back to the capital of Albion, along with your mentor, a cleric. You began in the port town on the northern side of Albion, flying on a brand new, top-of-the-line airship invented by the famous inventor Nicomedes. This was because there was a signing of an important treaty, the 10-year mark of a peace treaty between the Order of Aramea, under Sergaia, the Lady of Fate, and your Order of Duskmorrow, the Cathedral of Mists. Unfortunately, the ship fell under attack, and I believe that you remember the rest. In a crash,
Yes.
Your mentor unfortunately died.
He died trying to save the rest of us.
And succeeded, in fact.
Yes.
So as you stew on that and remember a bit about the world, we have Awkward Dictator here, also my friend Jinx. So hello, Jinx. Yes, you're still new to your world. I may have talked a little bit about what inspired its creation, but let's double back to that because I'm not sure if I caught it in the last stream. So It's actually a bit of a funny story. Um, if you look at the pantheon of gods that I have, and there are about 25, 26, I won't say specifically how many because some of them are unknown. Um, almost all of the gods that I have in my pantheon are, well, rather, let's start here. All of the gods that I have in my pantheon are dragons. Uh, and the reason why is because I used to play quite a bit of Flight Rising. Uh, and yes, this is the story of how Vanis began. Um, having my brood of dragons there, I thought to myself one day about 6 years ago, oh, I should write some lore for these. And rather than writing lore for a brood of dragons, I wrote lore for gods in a very Greek mythological style. And then I took a look at it and I was like, well, you know what? This would make a great start for a world. And that's really where it all began, was with the gods themselves. Which is why, if for those of you that are friends or subscribers on my Patreon, if you ever listen in to my game, you'll notice that the gods do feature very heavily in the world.
See, I like that.
Indeed.
I like I like a world where gods actually do something and don't just create a basis for clerics.
And they do. In one of Jinx was here for this. In the last, not the well, yes, actually, it was the last session. In the last session that I had, last official session, my players actually got to meet two of the gods. One of them, under the guise of an elven man, a very flamboyant elven man called Dulamon, had been following them since basically the beginning of this campaign, having taken an interest in Cadre, one of the players. And they quickly clocked him as not human, but mistakenly labeled him as an archfey. And just last session, he and his partner Fleur, Dulce and Fleur, manifested in their full godly forms and rescued them from a very tight scenario. Bit complicated to go into the background details of that, but it was pretty epic. We'll put it that way.
Yes. And I met the Lord of Vanishing in my dreams.
You did indeed. And there goes my light, even though I just charged it. Haha, gotta love it. Thank you, Jinx, thank you. I'm going to plug in the battery of my light, but I'm still keeping an eye on chat. Unfortunately, my light is a little bit janky. So, anyway, Lukey.
It is okay. Yes.
Having had time to stew on and reminisce about your time in the campaign, any questions from you? Come on, I know you gotta have some.
Well, well, I only played up to a certain point, thanks to errors of work and time zones.
Mm-hmm.
Those of you who do not know, I am Australian, so my time zone is way out of whack.
Just a bit.
I think we got to the led by Dryads to
Indeed.
like their to their grove or whatever it was.
Al-
Um,
Almost. You discovered a new race of these plant people, and they led you to a grove um, with a place that was sacred to them. This long dead tree stump. Well, not really dead, but it was no longer a tree, just a living stump that had been taken over by a duskthorn dryad. And the last point that you left off was uh, failing to kill the duskthorn dryad before she escaped.
yes, I do remember. I do remember the that tree striding heathen.
Tree striding heathen indeed.
Yeah. I believe after that, uh, that was when uh, my role in that campaign ended due to prior life commitments.
Yes, unfortunately, at that point, the that whole session just kind of stopped, or rather, that campaign, because there was you in Australia. We had my friend Rummy, who was in the UK, and with just the conflicting time zones, people generally being late or unable to show up. Um, I just and my general dislike of having used Roll20, that just kind of fell through.
Yep, Roll20 is garbage.
It is indeed. So now I just use Discord with a robot.
Fair enough. I um I am in 3 other campaigns at the moment, and we use Tabletop Simulator, the Kraken table specifically.
Mmm. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Uh, it is quite good. It comes with its own like little dice that you can roll and throw around. It comes with bags of miniatures. Uh,
Hmm.
Come on, brain. Condition markers. You can sort of drop on tokens and stuff. Um, and you can import your own figurines as well. So if
Interesting.
people make their figurines in like Hero Forge, they can screenshot it, and in a single player game, they can upload it into their own figurine, just the image, so they don't have to pay for it.
Ah, well, that's pretty cool,
Uh,
actually.
yeah. Or um, Hero Forge actually does have the ability, well, they sell file that you can actually just straight up import into Tabletop Simulator, and you will have your Hero Forge figurine
Hmm.
in TTS.
Well, that's actually lovely. I would do that, but for all of my seeming tech savviness, um, I just suck at a lot of digital stuff. And yes, as Jinx said, Jinx is a player in another campaign that I am in as a player. Um, and we do have a 2 or 3 hour difference, and it does throw things off from time to time. Often, the unfortunate killer of games is time differences. Um, and yes, Jinx is
Unfortunately,
cursed.
yes.
Everything Jinx touches, any technology, is guaranteed to have a problem. The other reason
Yeah.
why I don't use digital, though, which I was wrapping onto, is because I hate having to be constrained to pre-made maps or trying to put in like the 3 times the effort that it takes to like actually make a digital map myself. So instead, I go the hard way and I draw them myself. I have an example. Ah. Or I put them together out of my Gloomhaven pieces. But here's one drawn by hand. This was a fantastic battle that my players recently had down in a crystal vault full of sleeping Octios, a lost race of the Jaina people.
I
I
feel
don't
like
know.
that you could put that design on a ring or something,
Huh,
like a
maybe.
magical ring.
It's based off of Celtic knotwork, so I won't tell anyone, Jinx. Right, well, for the moment, I think that I've wrapped up the questions that people had. So, any new questions from either of you?
Um, I guess this is sort of a personal lore question, but how, like, in terms of my or the group that I played with and the current group, uh, the time and place difference between them.
Um, Talking about like
When our game happened and when
mm,
their game is currently happening,
in the canon of the lore.
and where. Yeah,
Excellent question. So your game occurred on Albion, the central continent, and I'll throw that map back up here. Um, as you can see, right smack in the middle here. And actually, the entirety of the campaign that you played and the slight continuation that I picked back up with Chi uh, occurred only in that northwestern region. Um, Currently, the players in my Saturday campaign are based in Salica, up there on the top side of the map, far to the north. Um, at this point in the campaign, let's see, they've just hit the 7th of Sodwin, um, the second month of autumn in the Venezian calendar, um, which puts them probably about 2.5 months after your campaign. See, the the interesting thing was when I had my Sunday campaign going, which was in person with Chi and a new character from Note and another one of my housemates. Um, that picked up where the original campaign with you, Lukey, had left off. Literally like just a couple of weeks afterwards. And then when I started my Saturday campaign and had them both going at the same time, they were, officially speaking, concurrent, with slight differences in days as one party took a little bit longer, or, you know, the other one caught up past them, stuff like that. So no, there's brand new continent, but not long after the time.
I
Oh,
see. Interesting.
and good question, Jinx. How in depth have I designed the flora and fauna? Um, that's a kind of a complicated answer. It does depend on the region. For certain regions, I'm only like certain of the the basics of like the climate and the environment. Um, and then for certain ones, like Salica, actually, um, there is a lot more depth to it. Like again, certain questions help me build my world, and so as we were getting ready for this campaign, it was actually one of my players, Cadre, who asked about the Salica wood because smack in the middle of Salica, taking up a large majority of the landmass, is a massive jungle called the Salica wood. And I had already established it as a jungle, but he asked me the question, so given the northern region and the fact that the climate can be very cold, how does this jungle survive? Um, and so we actually managed to go in depth, sink our claws in, and get some details. So in Salica, you have what's called a boreal jungle that is covering the majority of that continent. But I had to establish how it survives the very harsh winters of Salica. It does this with a very thick canopy. A lot of the trees along the fringes, along the regions that are more spread out and open to the sky, those are hardier wintergreens, evergreens. But as you go further into the center, the trees actually form a thicker and thicker canopy, to the point that in some sections of the forest, light never reaches the interior, and snow conglomerates along the top of the forest, never reaching the ground floor, which is not temperate but warmer during the winters than above. So then, of course, that led to the fact that these deeper portions of the forest have a wide variety of fauna not seen anywhere else. Flora that is bioluminescent in a lot of places. I haven't gone so far as to detail a lot of particular creatures or plants yet, but that is actually something that I am considering doing, and that I might, be open to answering questions about, because I'm still hoping to build like a system for potions that involves actual ingredients, and that involves designing particular plants. Of course, as for the fauna, a lot of the fauna that you see in a D&D campaign tends to be, monsters that you fight. So that is what I have these for, my 2 tomes of beasts, and I just kind of usually pick out what fits. Though there's still potential for like designing and statting my own. I do not make my maps digitally. So all of the digital map tools that I've tried, I just suck at. It ends up looking like I've just copy pasted the same, what is it called? Resource, whatever. Just all over the place. They just end up looking bad. I can't get the shapes the way that I want to. When it comes to my world, I'm a bit of a control freak. So, if I can't get things exactly right, perfectionist might be a better word. If I can't get things exactly right, then it frustrates me. So I tend to just draw by hand, like with this. In the instance of Salica in particular, I actually had the continent commission. Now, I did do it myself. This is the original one. I just scaled up, photocopied and scaled up Salica from my original map, and then I drew in all of the important cities, all of the important ruins, all of the stuff like that. But then I sent this off to a professional map maker and paid a couple $100, and they gave me the wonderful, wonderful final product that I think I've shown on here before. Let me see, is this it? No, that one is not it. Give me one moment. Yes, here we are. There we are. So this is the digital map of Salica, which is available to all of my players. Yeah, this has come in handy so much during the course of the campaign, honestly, and I absolutely adore the artist for the amount of detail that they put into this. It's fantastic. I let them have a bit of creative freedom with it, as you can see. But they took my my suggestions and ran with them. Some of the stuff that they did with their artistic interpretation, I've actually ended up making canon. For example, if you see where the river runs south of Tweenorok, I can't really point it out. Sorry. Those two ruins are bridged in the image that he made. And that wasn't originally intended, but it certainly is the way things are now. But yes. I do need to, since I threw that up there, and I do have rights to the image, but I still feel like I should credit the artist because they're a fantastic artist. So give me a moment and I will pull up exactly who did that for me. So that would be James Nelpa. Um, dun, dun, dun. And if you would like to find them or commission them yourself for anybody that would like, you can find them at Otherworldly Artisans. It should be otherworldlyartisans.com, I believe. Oh, and I've tried tablets too. Never been able to use tablets. So, next question. Anyone? Bueller? Yeah, all right. Well, I'll see you later, Jinx. Enjoy your tacos.
Taco time. I love it.
I mean, I can't fault anybody for, wanting to go get tacos.
Oh no, we have Taco Bell in Australia now too, and I just like, oh
Oh no. My
yeah.
weakness.
Yep. Um, well, uh, sort of flowing on from the flora and fauna idea. Are there, um, so we've all heard of places that, are, might be overrun by bandits or controlled by a necromancer that no one dare touch, or go near. But, are there certain places that are just way too dangerous to go because of the beasts that reside there?
Because of the beasts that reside there. Um,
Yes. Like for example, one of my other campaigns, we decided not to go to a small island because it was home to a behir, which I believe is a
oh.
CR12 ridiculous dragon eater.
All right. Yes. That's actually a good question. So, already established in my world, there are two such places um, that people might typically avoid um, because of that very reason, because of the beasts that reside in there. One of them is the deeper region of the Salica Wood, which, being so thick and dark, possesses a great deal of beasts in its depths. And particularly in recent years, these beasts have become very hostile. Um, Now, the second place would actually be the Bainar Greatwood. And the Bainar Greatwood is the large forest on the northwestern side of Albion. And my Sunday players discovered, of course, just how dangerous it was to travel through there. There is just one safe route through the Bainar Greatwood between the town of Galleon and the town of goodness, but I forget my own town names. Oh, here we are. Nope, that's wrong. Okay, well, let's forget about that for a moment. I have a town name for that. However, some unestablished regions, stuff that hasn't appeared in my campaign, that I can actually think about and answer now. So, I do believe that the larger desert up on the northern side of Catermorn is likely a place that people don't want to travel. Aside from the natural dangers of the heat and the sands, the beasts that live there have to be particularly hardy in order to survive in such a harsh and hostile climate. That's one. You also have, well, Kinra is particularly secretive about their continent. They only opened their gates to the outside world roughly 200 years ago, and are still somewhat xenophobic. But from what the mainland might gather, there are some regions there that the beasts are a little bit hostile, particularly up in the forests that are up on the cliffs. You have not just the there are certain clans that live out there separate from the main governmental structure. Those are hostile, but they're beasts as well. One might say the entirety of Lavellan. Its residents won't, but the Moon Elves, being a very, very secretive people, do their best to keep people off of their continent. And the Silverwood Forest itself, that covers the entirety of Lavellan, has a good deal of beasts in it. The Moon Elf natives have their ways of completely avoiding them, but they also have their ways of sending unwary travelers who were not invited onto their continent directly into the jaws of waiting beasts. And then, of course, there's the marshes of Averoth. And Averoth in itself is just a very, very hostile continent. You have the Norn humans in the north, who consistently do battle with the orcs in the south. Not exactly a war, so to speak, but battle is kind of in their blood and in their culture. And it's because of the hostility of the continent. There are many, many beasts across the marshes and in the copses of trees that can be violently deadly to travelers. So. There you go, making lore in real time for you.
Hey, some people work well under pressure.
Indeed. I work best under pressure. The whole reason that I started these streams to begin with is because it's the questions that really help make my world flourish. I had nothing about Lavellan until one of my players made a moon elf. I had very little about Kettermorn, at least the western side, until Cadre chose to be from the Ambelarnan Republic. I didn't even know the name of that nation yet. So, like, the best way for me to build, obviously, is by dropping new players into my world, but I can't run 10 campaigns, so, you know.
Not with that attitude.
Not with all the things that I have to do. I still have a life. It takes a lot just to write the story of my current campaign.
Not with any attitude, really. story of the Forever DM.
All right. Well, I think it's just you right now. Unless we have anybody watching, lurking. If you're lurking, please, by all means, ask me a question. That's what this is all for.
In the chat, we currently have me. Jinx is
Ah,
still in there. Bloodluster and Commander Root.
and Commander Root.
And another TV viewer.
All right. Well, that might be me. Well, anyone is, of course, more than welcome to ask questions, as I said. That's what this is all for.
I'm genuinely thinking hard of some questions to ask.
I believe in you.
Just slightly difficult because of the unfortunately short amount of time that I was in your game.
Of course. I mean, you can start broad as well. You don't have to narrow in on specific topics in particular. Sometimes starting broad is great because then you can just narrow in further based on my own answers.
That is indeed true. Well, I guess we covered the. I guess we covered the fauna, but any man-eating plants in your world, or similar?
Man-eating plants, yes. Well, my former Sunday campaign has already run into cave light moss from the Tome of Beasts. I would probably consider that man-eating flora, rather. Wait, did you say flora or fauna?
Flora.
Okay,
So
good.
yeah, we're looking for things like the old giant pitcher plant or a Venus person trap.
Well, yeah, there are definitely man-eating flora. I don't want to back myself into the corner of having to like actually create and stat something. um, so the answer will be yes. But cave light moss, there you go. There's one. Deep sea terrors. Ooh. Well, I am jealous of your tacos, honestly. Give me some of your tacos. Anyway, deep sea terrors. Not something that I've considered yet. I suppose it depends on your definition of terrors. I'm certain that a kraken exists somewhere in my world. I'm just not sure where. Um, there are sea dragons, a little bit more feral than most. Let's see. Well, I do believe that the Isles of Rem might have some. In a lot of places, like if you're talking deep sea, you might not like even hear tales of such things because, well, most people stay on the surface. But one of the 5 pirate lords of the Isles of Rem is a Sahagin, the fish people, rather. And so are like a large amount of their crew or their loyals, and they run basically the center region of the Isles of Rem, and part of the way that they succeed in holding their territory is because they are the only ones with the ability to design ships that can actually reach the deep sea. So, under their control, they have one or two deep sea creatures that would be a terror to reach. If anybody ever stole their technology for diving down that far, they would probably have to face the wrath of these beasts. In particular, I mean, like, I don't have a name for it yet, but I am picturing something like a giant lobster. I know that sounds funny. It's much scarier than I just made it sound, I promise. And then, of course, there are ones that they do have to contend with. Possibly some very large fish. There's always a bigger fish.
A leviathan.
A leviathan. Possibly.
A
Hi!
dragon turtle. Hello.
So, I mean, I haven't decided if I want to put a dragon turtle in my world yet, but it might exist. Also, welcome, Maru, to the chat. Their name shows up currently as Aelin, because Aelin is their character in my Saturday campaign. This is the Moon Alpha I was referencing earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Weak against butter. I don't know about that.
Can they hear me?
Yes, actually, I have my Discord audio working now, so
Cool.
welcome. And if you'd like, Maru, you can pop over to my Twitch page and just mute it so you don't hear echo. That way you can also see the chat.
I am actually just leaving work.
Oh, you're on your phone?
Yes.
You sound unseasonably? Unreasonably clear.
Oh,
for your
interesting.
typical headset. Yeah, usually it's really gritty and far away.
I mean, I have it. I'm not using my headset. I just have my phone. But anyways,
okay.
I don't want to distract too much from what you're talking about.
No, that's fine. I was just trying to come up with deep sea creatures.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
I wonder.
Someone in the Twitch decided to ask about deep sea terrors.
Yes.
And put Rex on the spot.
Well, putting me on the spot is the point of this. You get to see me struggle for once. Well, not her, certainly. Those aren't deep sea.
You could also do a deep sea jellyfish. Haha.
Oh, well, actually, that's an interesting idea. That might be something.
Especially because like deep sea stuff, and I think jellyfish could be really interesting because you think of a lobster and you're just like, okay, it's got big claws and maybe other things that make it an abomination, but jellyfish can get interesting.
They can. I quite like that idea. So actually, that might be something that I end up designing then. Here's a fun fact for everybody. Speaking of the deep sea, Maru, block your ears. I'm kidding. Just don't write this down, and keep in mind that your character doesn't know this. It is not going to be relevant to the current campaign.
Yeah.
There is a city, one city, that is deep, deep underwater. Out in the middle of the ocean, right over here, if you see the dot on the page, for those that are watching. That is the only city in the world that is built underwater, and it is massive. The only way to enter it is through a whirlpool that they can open and take away, or through the same technology that the Sahagin pirate lord has of ships that can dive under the water. And it is, in fact, actually the holy city of Crest, Lord of the Waves. It is mostly inhabited by Sahuagin, fish people. But there are some other races that live there. People that manage to make it down there. Certain races that can survive the depths of the ocean. The city itself is encapsulated in a series of magically contained bubbles of air. And some of it is outside. For those that are, comfortable living in the actual water, there are sections built out of deep sea coral that exist outside of the bubble. But yeah, it's actually quite an underwater metropolitan city, existing within its own bubble, quite literally.
Do they trade, or is it like self-sustaining metropolitan city? Like, I'm curious where their food, and also, like, depending on how big is the city, like how they would get food if they just had like large hunting parties or something.
That's most of how they get their food. As for luxuries, yes, they do actually trade with the outside world. Like I said, there is access that is available to it through a whirlpool on the surface that they can magically activate and deactivate. It's a scary experience your first time, but perfectly safe, mostly. So they will send up parties to go out and trade with Kettermorn and the Sanguinum, not Sanguinum, sorry, the Sanjavari Valley on Albion. And as well, they can invite trade from other regions to come to them and allow them in. Can they eat cotton candy, or will they never understand true joy? I don't think they can eat cotton candy. I'm sorry. I think it would melt on the way down.
They're given the cotton candy, and then they go underwater, and they're like, "Oh, where'd it go?"
It's just gone.
I was just trying to wash my food.
Like that raccoon.
Yep.
That poor raccoon. Yes. No, they are doomed to a sad, cotton candyless life.
And back onto the whole deep sea monsters or whatnot, that would be under control of the Isle of Rem, right? Or just in general, deep sea monsters.
Well, the specific question was just deep sea terrors that exist in the world. The reason why I deviated to the Isles of Rem as I was building on that is because one of the pirate lords, the Sahuagin Lord, controls most of the deep waterways between the isles, underneath the isles, because they're able to get down into those depths. And part of the way that they control that is through their command of certain deep sea terrors.
Yeah.
And this does actually put them in a great position of power because here's something that I can talk about. Let me get to a certain page in here. Here we are. Really easier for me to read if I pull these out. So very briefly, when I had my Sunday campaign, I did have a member of the party that joined for just a few sessions who spent a good deal of time in the Isles of Rem, which allowed me to ask to flesh some of it out. The Isles of Rem, the reason why the region is often like so sought after by like other nations, is because oh dear, Lukey, is that you saying goodbye? Ah, it is. There goes Lukey. Well, thanks, Lukey, for joining in. We appreciated having you. Anyway, the Isles of Rem have a number of luxuries that are unique only to that region, more than anywhere else in the world, and more precious than anywhere else in the world. Which is why the pirate lords maintain such a tight grip over it. So you have, for example, the blood pearls, the dragon rays. You have sapphire sugar, gemmed fruits, stardust salt, rainbow scaled eels, crystal conches, mithril silkworms, albino lobsters. These are the main trademarks of the region,
Wow.
but there are more. And yes, I did actually write out details on these. Where are you? So, yeah. Grecht of the Deep River, as he's known, since he holds control of the depths, first and most importantly, since this is a region of lawlessness and war, he and his men basically have first pickings of all of the treasure that sinks down there. Sunken ships, they're the most likely to get their hands on that salvage.
Wow.
But blood pearls, they command the trade for that, because though back in the day people used to dive for those, now with the Sahagin in control, they are just able to swim and live down there. They don't have to have any specialized equipment in order to reach the blood pearls. The same goes for the crystal conches.
Very interesting. And that's just like one of the pirate lords. I wonder more about the others. But that might be, well, I guess knowing about the pirate lords wouldn't be too metagamey, especially since I don't think we're gonna end up in that conflict at all.
Yeah, likely. You're like, my campaign is going to, unfortunately, because I love the Isles, honestly. Unfortunately, I think this campaign is going to avoid them. Originally, I had a plot thread leading you guys there, but I think that has become irrelevant. Oh, and yes, Jinx, I definitely need lots of art for lots of things. So,
yeah,
knowledge of who the 5 pirate lords are isn't particularly a secret. Let me see.
Yeah, I know one is like a leader of an ancient Jana tribe.
Yes. I believe you got her name, actually.
Yeah, in my notes somewhere.
So, you have Zentham the Shadow. He is in control of the southern region, the one that butts up closest to Albion. Then you have Ash the Bloody, and he controls most of the western side of the Isles. On the eastern side, closest to King Ra, you have Shinlun of the Red River, and she actually has a very interesting backstory.
She sounds awesome.
Oh, yes. I'll come back to her in just a moment, because somebody actually asked about her in my first stream. But then up to the north, you have quite possibly my favorite pirate lord, or pirate lady, if you'd rather. And some of you may recognize this name because it's stolen from real history. Granumel, or Granuil, or Granny O'Malley. So Granimil the Cunning is the Lady of the Northern Isles. Close is a relative term here, but closest to Salica, and a pain in the side of the Aetherian Empire. She is a Jaina.
Ah, excellent.
Yes.
Makes sense why she's a pain.
Oh, yes. So, given her her people's plight in the lands of Aetherium, the slavery that still goes on over the Jaina, yes, she has made it her life's goal to just be a pain to Aetherian, to raid the hell out of their ships. Anyway, and then of course in the center you have Gret of the Deep River.
Uh-huh.
But-
Oh, I just imagine Granny or Aelin going up to Granny and being like, "So I heard you don't like the Aetherian Empire."
Oh, that would make for an interesting conversation. Any of the pirate lords would.
Right.
So,
Oh, the Red River lady.
yes, doubling back to Shinlun of the Red River. I'll read you this excerpt that I have, a brief biography of her. It is rumored that Shenlun was once a powerful admiral of Qinra, commanding some of the greatest fleets the nation had ever seen. Once, in a time long past, she raised an armada that could have broken the pirate lords once and for all. But she was betrayed by her right hand, who shamed her honor, accused her of false crimes, and stole the glory of her accomplishments before she could see the fruits of her labor. She vowed to never let that tree bear fruit. Filled with a burning vengeance, she went to the Isles of Rem and slew the eastern pirate lord, taking his command and his fleets. With her new armada at her disposal, she burned hundreds of Qinra ships, still in construction in their hidden docks, and left a trail of destruction so vast that they say the crescent coast of Qinra ran red like a river of blood for weeks after. Of course, this is all a rumor, and both Shinlun and Qinra are incredibly tight-lipped, so one may never know for sure. One thing is certain. Since slaying the former pirate lord and taking his throne, the Eastern Isles have rebounded from their crumbling days of lost glory into something beautiful and terrifying, and full of secrets shrouded in the mists. Great foreign riches flow aplenty from the Eastern Isles, some of them from lands unknown, and many of the crews that bring them refuse to say where they acquired them, perhaps afraid that someone might steal the source of their wealth.
So I hear you have secrets hidden in the mist, so I just came to see what that was all about.
Oh yeah, Aelin would do that, wouldn't she?
Possibly.
Well,
Some point in our lifetime.
maybe one day. Maybe in the next
Yeah.
campaign. Maybe if the story deviates quite spectacularly.
Oh man. I don't know. It's like I feel like Aetherian and the Cult of Notch can probably end up taking us to level 20.
Most likely. I mean, with everything that I put in your guys' path, with the espers that Nethrisa has to gather, with the Cult of Noct all over Salica, yeah, it feels like the campaign is probably going to go all the way to level 20 within the confines of Salica. Which, frankly, is a shame because there's so much of the world to see.
It might go up to level 15, but that really, I don't know, we're level 9 right now. There
Mhm.
still feels like such a vast amount left.
There is. There's a lot. And I don't want to say that I made a mistake with, putting 16 espers for Nathrisa to gather. but
It is a bit daunting.
it is daunting, and like
Oh,
the idea of gathering one per level might be limiting. But then again, once you hit higher levels, it may
uh-huh.
be extremely possible to actually go like within a level and bounce between the various ruins and collect the remaining espers. So,
So I actually had a thought and possibly an idea for you if you're struggling with that whole idea. It was mentioned from, oh shit, I'm low on gas. It was mentioned that it is possible for someone that is strong enough to possibly take on the power of an Esper.
mm,
And the Cult of Noct is kind of in the journey of discovering all of the, different um, ruins. And I would assume at some point that even though a lot of the espers are sealed away by powerful magic, that, I don't know, somehow, some reason they're able to break a couple, and then there's a person that takes on those espers in themselves, and then whenever Nethrisa and us come across this individual and kill them, then all those espers would go to Nethrisa, and that would be like a bundle deal.
hmm. Right, that is a possibility. Um, I mean, that possibility is open not just to the Cult of Noct, but to other, powerful individuals that may
Mm-hmm.
discover this. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. I, of course, can't tell you what I'm planning,
Yeah.
so I can neither confirm nor deny the nature
Mm-hmm.
of the later points of the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Lots still being written, but I do have some fantastic plans that will excite you. Um,
Oh, I bet. But pass it on to the Twitch chat that I cannot see.
indeed. And yes, indeed, Jinx. Mystery is a great, giant point of this campaign. Not just that, but the world in general.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think then I've covered. I've covered the basics of the pirate lords. We talked about the potential creatures of the deep a little bit.
Actually, I wouldn't mind. Are any of the other players listening? Is Netheresa around?
No, she had to go. She said
Okay.
that she might be back. Actually,
Um,
um, let me
if
poke
you're
her.
if you're interested in talking about Lavellan, uh, I think that would do me good.
Hmm. Okay. I could indeed talk a bit about Lavalon. Um. So let's talk Lavalon. First, let's give a little bit of background. Um. Let me put these away.
It's where my character is from.
Indeed. That's. Oh, right. You are the second one in my binder. So, let's talk Lavalon. Down on the southwestern side of the world, we have the continent of Lavalon, and something that you may notice about it is that it is absolutely covered in forest. Now, Lavalon is the home of the Moon Elves, of which Aelin is one. The Moon Elves are a very, very secretive people, being dedicated to the goddess of the moon, Alunair, whose domains are secrets and revelation. secrets factor in very deeply into their culture. That said, most of their society itself is a secret as far as the outside world is concerned. The average person knows nothing about where their cities are, except for one in particular, Finis which is on the very, very tip closest to Albion. Aelin comes from Clan Manador, and Lavellan operates in this way where each region of Lavellan is, in essence, a clan. And for the most part, each clan is a singular city, but some larger ones will have multiples. And then you have the capital of Ithildar, the seat of Moon Elven power, where the conclave of the elders will gather to decide on policy for the entire nation. I would call the structure of Lavellan's government theocratic, because since so much of their culture revolves around Alunair, and religion is baked into their culture, a lot of their decisions are based around the teachings of Alunair and that culture. So with that in mind, just the basics laid out there. Maru, I assume that you had questions.
Well, so, an outsider coming into the city, for example, or, even moon elves that might bring outsiders to Lavalon, like, what would all that entail? Like, I'm guessing it would probably make sense that Aelin would probably never take anyone past Finis Embar.
Correct. And Finis Embar is an open city. It is completely unlike the rest of the Moon Elven cities, which are built up in the canopy of the Silverwood forests and hidden from the world by powerful runic magic. Meanwhile, Finis Embar is past the very edge of the thicker forest, and is actually built upon the ground, and outsiders are welcomed there. It's where most of the trade occurs. It's where political guests are welcomed. All of that stuff. But as for bringing outsiders into Lavalon, there's no approval necessary to bring them to, say, Finis Embar. However, to bring them to a clan, to a city itself, this would require approval from a ranking member of the local conclave. So the elders of that clan.
My mom.
Yes, your mother, being one of the elders, would be able to approve this. Another way to circumvent that is if you actually have emergency approval from the Watchers of the Hidden Path, from any of the ranking members in there, then you don't need to go through the conclave and face a debate.
Right. And, actually, I'll let you continue.
No, go ahead. Ask your question.
And what is, like, I guess technically Aelin's status within the Watchers? Like, I'm probably not an Alkalite. I feel like that's too, like, entry level. I guess would I be considered an agent or an intermediate agent? Yeah. Where do I fit in the Hidden Watchers?
So, this is a question that I do need to get down to brass tacks on, actually, at some point. because the fact is that with the Watchers of the Hidden Path, I haven't properly like written out all of the different ranks.
Yeah.
When you departed, so there was the rank that was beneath where you were, the essentially initiate would be the word. That's where people start when they're learning. When their training is complete, they become an acolyte. We have those two established. I absolutely need to get the titles updated because you would have at this point, you think, reached the next level. And there are several. I'd say that there's 5 in total.
Yeah.
Initiate, acolyte, and then 3 above that. Your mother would be the top rank, of course, although retired at this point.
Yeah. Okay.
I think well, yeah, no, that's actually going to be a complicated answer because once again, although you are in particular a monk, while everybody has the title of a monk since it is a monastic order, not everybody within the Watchers of the Hidden Path bears the talents of the monk class. There are others.
Right.
There are paladins. There are just fighters. There are forms of mages and maguses. And depending on the track that you take, acolyte would be the monastic track. So you go from initiate and then you go into one of the paths.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, it's going to be complicated because I've got to work out 5 on the level of you, and then 5 on the levels above that.
I was out of the 5 for the monk, I would be a level 3.
Yeah.
A level 3 watcher.
Yes.
And then honestly, probably by the time I get back, I might end up becoming a level 4. Just assuming based on everything that she's been doing for the Watchers.
Yeah, and that may even come sooner than you think. And that may not be an end of campaign thing. End of campaign may even be you've hit rank 5 in the Watchers.
Yeah. Sweet. But yeah, I was wondering about that. And the Watchers within the clans, are they kind of the how do I describe it? I guess the governing force of the city that they reside in? Clan Matador?
Let me double back to that because I think that since we've deviated down the path of the Watchers of the Hidden Path here, I do need to explain to people who might be watching here or who might watch later what exactly the Watchers are. So something important to note about the continent of Lavellan is that it is a crux of planar energy. All across Lavellan, there are gateways, tears into other planes of existence that don't exist anywhere else on Vanis. This, well, going a little bit deeper, there is, I believe I've mentioned before, something called the Veil that covers the world that makes planar travel incredibly difficult. It is the barrier between Vanis, between the prime material and the other planes outside of it. So, of course, these gateways are essentially tears in the veil, which is bad because in places where something can go out, something can come in also. The Watchers of the Hidden Path are almost as old as the civilization on Lavellan itself, and they are tasked with not just the protection of these gates, because their use can cause ripples and tear the fabric further, but also the identification and closure of other planar rifts on Vanis itself.
We spies
Exactly.
of gateways.
Sort of, yeah. They care less about, spying on governments and more about spying on secret organizations, such as the Cult of Noctu may be trying to open gateways into other worlds, or succeeding, as you found, bringing the Shadow Fae from the Shadowfell. So, of course, the Watchers of the Hidden Path are a monastic order. They have a great deal of political influence in Lavellan, since like the backbone of Lavellan is this. It ties into their religion. Alunair was the one that gave them this holy task. The veil being in part of her creation. I think that covers the basics of the Watchers. Aelin, in particular, is part of the monastic side, having grown up in Clan Manador, which guards the Astral Gate.
The Astral Gate, and I saw it. Another one.
No.
Or was it just
No.
the Astral?
Yeah, the Astral Gate is where Clan Manador is, and this is the key to the different clans. Is each of the clans guards a different gate. With the capital of Ithildar, they guard the Ethereal Gate.
And I guard the Astral Gate, or at least the city, the clan does, where it's located. And I'm also a Way of the Astral Self monk.
Mm-hmm. Being bathed in such planar energies does those sort of things.
I don't think that was revealed before. So.
Not on stream, at least.
Monk.
Yeah. So, doubling back then to your question, Aelin, could you repeat that for me?
Does the Watchers of the Hidden Path, for like Clan Manador, for example, are they like the kind of leading or governing force for the clans or cities where they're located?
Not necessarily, not by themselves. They do have a great deal of political influence, given that it is kind of a theocratic society, and they are...
So we're a part of the government.
Yes, they're consulted very heavily on decisions.
But not the government. Okay.
Exactly. The government itself is run by the elders of the various clans. The convocations. Each clan has a convocation, and then there is the central convocation within the capital that governs all. Frequently, the elders that are put into these positions will be former Watchers of the Hidden Path. For example, your mother is now in a position in the convocation of Manador. So,
all right.
There's that.
Good to know. And then, now there's a lot of stuff on Lavellan that's not just the cities. All the forests and whatnot that exists like in between. I guess you can describe what that's like, because Lavellan is more than just its cities.
Of course, yeah. And again, most people never see the cities. Lavellan is covered in a massive forest. Here, actually, what I'm going to do is I do have snippets about Lavellan that are quite lovely.
Well, yeah, I have them on Hero World Anvil. My information about Lavellan, I have those notes.
Yes, which this is a good point to say. I am in the process of constructing a World Anvil bit by bit. If you would like to support this effort, please jump over to my Patreon at some point, give a subscription, because the more money I have more pouring in, the more time I can devote to things like this. And eventually I can open up my World Anvil to more people, to Patreon subscribers, and open up parts of it just to the public. And you can read in your own time about my world. But let me see. Here we are. Lavellan. So, here's a lovely little quote that I wrote from a man named Raven Thalos in 982 Sandria Atum. And by my every step I was held breathless. In those pristine forests, the greatest upon the face of the world, the final crowning jewel of Thresh's creation. With wood of dappled white and leaves of deep blue, dotted ferns and brush between moss, and the softest grass and ground my feet had ever known. At once I knew why this grand isle's residents held so jealously the secrets of its depths, for if this land had ever been my home, I too would have protected it to my last breath.
Aw. It's beautiful.
It is indeed. Lavellan is a gorgeous continent, home of the massive silverwood forest that covers the majority of the continent. It is the only place to which the silverwood trees are native. And in any other climates, they are incredibly difficult to grow.
I have a quick question about like the silver trees, the silverwood trees. Like, is there anything necessarily special about them aside from silver appearance?
Not in particular. Well, sort of. So, the silverwood forest is innately magical, but not like deeply. But the wood itself has a light magical essence to it, and this makes it kind of easy to enchant, and actually to like weave enchantments into the living trees, which is very uncommon because it's typically very, very, very difficult, if not impossible, to put like permanent magical effects, permanent enchantments onto a living thing, just because of the nature, the changing nature of life. And I should note that the forest itself does have a name. It is called Siliglad.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. I'll read, well, you should, because actually you do have access to this article. But I'll read this excerpt here again. Precious little is known to the outside world about Lavellan itself, as its residents guard the secrets of its forests and lands as strictly as one might guard their own child. The borders themselves are not necessarily closely watched, but it is rumored that the entirety of the massive Siliglad is laced with deep, ancient, and natural magics that enchant uninvited walkers within its boughs. One can find themselves walking for days from the coast, only to emerge where they started, or mere hours only to be spat out into some unfamiliar bay. Add to this the many natural dangers of beasts or uncharted geography within the region, and suddenly infiltration into the wood becomes a gamble with one's life. However, those that have emerged hale and whole have described a land of intense beauty, one that can be found nowhere else upon Vannis. Rarer still than travelers looking upon the forests of Lavellan is an invitation to one of its mysterious cities, the locations of which are an utter mystery, as are the magics that hide them from view. Without such an invitation, it is almost impossible to locate one of these cities, even if the searcher knows where to look.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I think telling the viewers more about Lavellan is good.
Indeed.
Speaking of which, the moon elves themselves, uh, kind of from what Rex has described, a beautiful race similar to that of Galabrea. Oh, fuck, what's her name? Oops.
Yeah, if you
What's her...
picture like I'm certain that a lot of people have seen Lord of the Rings. Galadriel,
Mm.
she would be like the pinnacle of like a moon elf. She's what moon elves are, um, with slight differences. The moon elves tend to have very pale skin to blue tints. They range along that. They tend to have uh, light shades of hair. Um, it's not often dark. Lots of silver. Um, Sometimes very light blondes. Even like light oranges, but usually not like dark.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we've already discussed the culture a bit. Also, thank you, Jinx.
Yes.
So, next question.
And now a better headset.
Excellent. So, I suppose now, did I answer your question fully about like the silverwood itself?
Um. So for a non-native coming to Lavellan, uh, trying to explore the woods by themselves will probably either end up coming across the dangers of the woods or being just spat out, back to the water.
Indeed, yeah.
Now, what about a native of Lavalon going into the Silver Woods?
So native of the region, um, oftentimes some of the more natural enchantments that the Silaglad gives off, um, they are innately immune to. Others, they are simply trained to recognize and avoid um, as they grow up. Or there are even like hidden paths, secret shortcuts um, within the wood that only the native moon elves know how to access through moon runes. Um, so you know some of these. You know how to recognize when you've stumbled across them. You know how to access some of them. Not all of them. Some of them are reserved for, like higher members of the Watchers, kept secret even from the lower ranks. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that.
All right.
The beasts are still, of course, somewhat a problem, but that is also how these hidden paths come in handy, because the beasts cannot find them. You can walk right beneath the nose of a monster on these paths and not be seen.
Oh. Oh, what was that one thing called? The specific pass for moon elves, you said. Like there is a one that through moon runes you can practically
Oh,
use
right.
to like travel uh great distances from like I guess from one city to another, or can it actually go from like uh one city to another continent?
Um, it would typically be from like one city to another. Let me open back up my moon runes because that's where I do have my notes on this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so let's see, passages. I believe it was. No. Maybe I don't have particular notes on that, but so there, I don't remember the name. I will eventually find my notes on that, but yes, the way that it works with these moon runes is you essentially bind like a path. You create a space within the world. So let's take, for example, this table. The way that the passage runes, when properly chained, would work is, for example, I have a city on one side of the table and a city on the other side of the table. Now, the simplest, and simplest is a relative word here, form of the passage inscriptions would be put on either side, and definitions would be written into these runes, and a space would be created within the table. So, like, just straight down the middle, as though you just added
like a wormhole?
Not really, no. It's like this. This table is this table is 5 feet across. I add the passage runes on either side of it, and it makes a passage through the center. Including this passage, the table is now 7 feet across. But walking from that side of the table to this side of the table, it's only 5 feet. You walk right through the path and are just out the other side of the path. You never actually touch the path itself.
Oh.
The path exists within this space. There's more complex ones where it contracts the space inside. And so as you walk the path, what would have been a journey of 5 hours is now 1. And then there's the very complex inscriptions where the path can lead like across the world. Not quite like teleportation, but much, much quicker than, you know, trying to travel there normally.
And then I think you should maybe describe to the viewers exactly what moon runes are, since we're talking about them.
Sure. And do keep in mind, anybody that is watching, you are still more than welcome to ask questions. Aelin is one of my players, so they are currently helping me kind of drive this conversation. But if you have questions of your own, I will take those first.
Yeah, just trying to help come up with topics for people to hear about in the world.
Indeed. So as for moon runes are a very special set of runes, said to be gifts from the goddess Alinnair herself, granted to the moon elves. They are infused with the power of Alinnair's light, in order to give them their effects. And you're fine, Jinx, no worries. Each rune, like proper rune, is representative of a word. And those words can be strung together to particular effects. They can also have descriptions written around them in standard moon runes, non-magical, that will kind of describe how they act. Going into a little more detail, though, when you create moon runes, you inscribe or paint them on a surface with a very special kind of paint. This paint made of quartz and moonstone. And what else did I say it was made of, Aelin?
Oh, I'm actually pulling on my character sheet right now to look up about that, because
excellent.
That could be like a homebrew thing that is offered for players that might want to use it in their game, to use moon runes, because like how a lot of people
Mhm.
sometimes are like, I wish I had some kind of like rune system that I can
Oh yeah,
use.
yeah. This
Um,
is that rune
mhm,
system. This is it's not enchanting, but it's its own set of effects. Anyway, so
mhm,
at its basic
yeah,
form, moon runes are paint or inscriptions infused with this paint that you put onto a surface, and these are only readable
yeah.
under
It
the
is
conditions that you describe.
it is a thick ink, powdered silver, and powdered quartz, and you have to have 100
Oh,
gold
there we go.
worth of these materials to equal uh essentially one dose,
Yes,
and the amount of runes that you can write in a dose is dependent
on your
on
roll. Mhm.
rune crafting skill.
So yes. Um. Anyway, um, you put these on a surface. They are only readable under certain conditions that you define. Um, Now you do have to like actually write these conditions in order to define them, but it's you can define basic stuff like these runes are only available to these type of people, like Watchers of the Hidden Path, or these runes are only visible under these conditions, like on a rainy night. Um, Moon runes will always be visible under a full moon, unless you use the hidden rune, which is one of the magical ones, to hide it from view until certain conditions are met. Um, so then, going on, there are a number of runes that you can learn. Um, you have hidden, dream, light, power, bind, protect, reveal, water, alone,
True, true name.
anchor, I'm getting there, knowledge, memory, speak, break, mend, control, forbid, true name, passage. These are the ones that I have defined so far, but there are in fact more. Um, these each have a basic effect. Speaking of like true name, when you place the true name rune, it binds the text or the effect to a particular person whose name you then inscribe after. Um, so, for example, if you have a passage of moon runes and you do hidden true name Aelin, then only Aelin is able to view these runes. They don't show up under moonlight. They are only visible to her. If you inscribe a passage and you put control true name Aelin, then these runes are under the control. Their effect is under the control of Aelin. You have the alone rune. The alone rune, when placed by itself, creates a small space that when you enter that rune, you can see no one around you, and no one can see you. It creates a small instant space. You vanish when you step onto it, and if somebody else steps onto it, they do not enter your space, they enter their own. They can see the outside world, but not the people nearby, and the people nearby cannot see them. It is like a tiny sanctum. There's more, of course. I can go on for ages, but let's talk about like weaving
Yeah.
these passages together. So,
Well, I think it's good to talk about how they were important to the society
right. So we can
and
talk about
why
that.
moon runes are important, to moon elves.
Right. So aside, obviously, from the fact that they were gifted from Alunair, their goddess, um, one of the big reasons why moon runes are very important to the moon elves is because it is actually what powers their enchantments. It's what hides their cities. Dozens and dozens and dozens of these runes line pretty much every city that the moon elves have. Complex weavings of these runes that hide them entirely from view. A person standing on the forest floor below one of these below one of these cities would not see the city at all. It is only visible to the people that live within the city, or that have lived there all of their lives, or to people who the Moon Elves choose. More than that, it powers their light. There are lamps that are inscribed with the light rune, and they consistently produce a beautiful moonlight. A lot of the passages that make travel very quick across Lavellan, they are these runes. That's how you make those passages that I had previously described, is with moon runes. So aside from it being like of religious significance, it is of important cultural significance to the elves, a part of their very life. Almost every moon elf will know at least some of these runes.
Excellent. Yes.
So I think that covers that. Excuse my voice. Now.
You can talk about the temple inside the capital.
I could.
Or just the capital itself. And this is honestly helping me as well.
Good. Well, I do need to take a quick bathroom break, which makes me realize that I do not have an intermission screen set up. So, oops.
Just slap up the map.
Sure, let's do that. Yeah, I'll slap the map up on the screen. And
then you gotta play some like elevator lounge music.
No, but what I will do is I know what I'm doing, I swear. I will add oh goodness. Here we are. Some music. The same music that I use in my intro, and we will be right back, like literally 2 minutes or so.
All right.
There we go. That should be good. All right, hello. I am back.
Wow, that like faded perfectly. The music.
Thank you. I did it myself.
Hmm.
Excellent. Well, we are back once more. So, with everything that we've been talking about, I believe that the last question that we left off on was talking about the was the capital of Lavellan, correct? And a bit about the temple in there. Also, I see that we
Yes.
have some new viewers. Welcome to the stream. Please feel free to butt in at any time with some questions. Thank you, Jinx, for joining while you could. It was fantastic to have you,
Yes.
and I
Thank
appreciate
for
you watching.
listening.
Right. So for those of you that just joined, we are currently talking about Venice, my wide and wonderful homebrew world, built entirely by hand from the ground up. The whole point of this stream is to be a Q&A. You ask me questions, I answer them. Sometimes I make up lore on the spot for my world. It helps my creative process. It helps this world grow. On Discord currently, we have my friend and player, Maru, whose character is known as Aelin,
Hello.
a moon elf from the continent of Lavellan, up, or rather down here in the southwest. They're here to help me drive the conversation a bit since they know some about the world. However, this stream is mostly for our viewers, so please feel free to butt in with questions. Yours will always take priority.
I am simply the today co-host, I guess.
Indeed.
Helping come up with topics of conversation.
So, let's jump back onto the topic for now, since I don't see any new questions yet. We wanted to go into a bit of detail about the capital of the Moon Elven Society, Ithildar, capital of Lavellan. So Ithildar is, of course, the crowning jewel of Moon Elven Society. It's set on the far western side of Lavellan, right next to a bay, and is one of the most meticulously hidden cities, although they are all very hidden from the outside world. I will read you an excerpt. And I was incorrect earlier, Maru. I said that the capital guarded the ethereal gate. That is wrong. They guard two gates. They guard the gates to the Shadowfell and to the Feywild.
Oh, right. Let me write that in my notes.
You should actually have it in your notes, because I'm looking at yours for the capital.
Yeah, there it is, right there.
So this city has had millennia to grow, untouched by the outside world, and its beauty is said to be unparalleled. A fragment of Elysium itself, according to the rumors of outsiders who have been lucky enough to lay their eyes on it. Indeed, the Silver City is gorgeous to behold, as if the mighty silverwood trees were not enough. Great pillars of stone, remnants of old and broken mountains carved away by water, stick up past the canopy of the trees like mighty watchtowers, some large enough to bear lakes of their own that pour waterfalls down through the blue-green leaves of the forest below. Walkways of silver-white wood span to and fro, connecting rock and wood, and visible only to the trained eye, and only ever from above, as they web between arched temples and homes and gazebos of ancient architecture whose art is lost to all but the most venerated artisans. I lost track of where I am. Most venerated artisans of the city itself. Whoops. The largest and most beautiful temple of Alunair lies here, and this is what this question was really about. Perched between two spires of stone, straddling a mighty waterfall where the light of the moon, they say, shines even when Alunair herself does not. It is considered the highest honor of the devout to be allowed passage into the silent silver halls, and many a watcher of the hidden paths finds ultimate reward in retiring one day to this place of peace, prosperity, and learning. It is also the most vehemently protected bastion of the Moon Elves, and any outsiders must be heavily vetted and watched if they gain entry to the city. They say that within the temple, it is always night, and you can always see the full moon. The waterfall that pours out below is said to be holy water. There is a fountain within the central chamber of this temple that, when you drink from it, supposedly reveal the secrets to whatever it is you seek the most.
I need to drink this water.
So you've said. But it's very
Again.
rare that one is allowed to. Even a Watcher of the Hidden Paths.
I'm like, look, my mission is important. I need this. To be honest, it's actually not a bad argument for what I am doing. But the question is, would that really be the thing that I seek the most?
That is an excellent question. It's difficult sometimes to tell what you seek the most. And sometimes the answer may not be what you want. It may not be what you thought you sought, but more what you needed.
Mm-hmm. True. I do like the whole idea of Lavellan being essentially this continent of these beautiful, like, mysterious elves that are like throughout the woods, that nobody gets to see. And when they are seen in the outside world, you're like, wait, whoa, she's beautiful. Oh, she's a moon elf.
Yeah, it's almost like seeing the most beautiful alien that you ever laid eyes on. They just... I wouldn't call them unheard of, obviously, because the Moon Elves do have... Ooh, excuse me. Kind of a coming of age, where when they reach like nearly the end of their first century, they will venture out into the world because their society is so enclosed, encapsulated. They find it very important to like learn about the outside world, to go out into it, to ensure that they know what is happening outside, and to be cultured. So around the first century, they will go on a pilgrimage.
I'm definitely cultured.
Yeah, I mean, definitely you are.
After what happened in my first, 20 years after my century.
Indeed. And I think that you only had like a decade abroad, really.
Yeah.
Because most will go for like 30 years or so on this pilgrimage. Sometimes even longer. Some moon elves go like for a full century.
Yeah. Oh, that does bring me the question. Like, I guess moon elves sometimes would end up settling outside of Lavellan. Like, after their pilgrimage, might maybe deciding like, I don't think I want to go back.
Yeah, that does happen.
I just imagine it's like, all right, honey, it's your first century, so you need to go out and see the world. I'm kicking you out. Oh, but mom, you gotta go on your pilgrimage to be cultured, son.
Well, it'll happen to your brother one day. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah.
Eventually. Yeah, but occasionally they do choose to settle elsewhere. Like you witnessed in Aramea. There was the Moon Elven Tailor.
Yeah.
But it's rare. Lavellan is a very beautiful place, and the people that live there are usually happy to live there. It's just that some find beauty in the outside world, even in the more rugged places. There are other kinds of beauty.
Yeah, like Aylin's discovering.
Indeed.
She is, because I am, and she is, drawn to Kinra. However, with the way things are looking, it doesn't look like I'll necessarily be settling there. But
Probably not. But then again, you have your own Kinra style manor at this point, so
we have our own little slice of Kinra.
exactly.
Mhm.
Don't really need to go to the continent for that.
Mhm. Oh man, my teacher would be proud. Oh, Aylin, look at this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, question, Maru. Are you... I can't see who is actually on my stream right now. Are you watching it right now?
Yes.
Okay. Then it may just be the two of us at this point.
Mhm.
So, I mean, we're
Which is
about... Yeah, we're about 2 hours and 20 minutes in.
I think it's a good stopping place, since that's actually probably most of the topics with Lavellan that there is to talk about, except for holidays and their
Secret stuff.
relation
Yeah.
towards Noct.
Mm-hmm. Well, with us being 2 hours and 20 minutes in, I will open the floor in case there is anybody else watching. Please feel free, ask me questions. We've just wrapped up our topic about Lavellan, the continent of the Moon Elves. So if you have any questions to ask me about my world, about any of the continents, we have Salika, we have Kinra, Albion, Kettermorn, Tetra, all of these wonderful places, anything that you can dream of, shoot me a question right now, and we will answer that. If I don't see any questions soon, then I'll just wrap up the stream for the night. Anything that you would like to say, Maru?
Thank you for letting me kind of co-host, I guess. Help ask questions and talk a little bit about my character's hometown. Sorry, home country.
Indeed.
So, and thank all the viewers for putting up with me and my questions, trying to bring up some topics.
Absolutely. Well, and it really helps, to move things along, having you here. As a player in the world, your familiarity does help get things going.
And my addiction to D&D, like the rest of us.
I mean, same.
Yeah. But I think that's about it.
Yeah. All right. Well, then, in that case, we'll go ahead and close things out for tonight. Thanks to everybody who joined. I know at this point all of you have probably left, but still, it was fantastic to have you here while it lasted. Thank you for the questions. Thank you, Maru, for joining in tonight. I'll be doing another stream, of course, tomorrow night. That is Thursday the 10th, Thursday the 9th, beginning at 5 p.m. and running till about 7 p.m. So if anybody wants to tune in for that, then just keep your eyes peeled.
It would actually be Friday the 9th.
Yes, thanks. I'm dumb. It's Friday the 9th. Friday the 9th. Time is a weird soup, as they say in Exandria
Time is a
Unlimited.
construct. It's an illusion.
Yeah, something like that. But fantastic. I appreciate all of you, and I hope to see you again next time on Mythos Venezia, the Living Lore. Thanks very much.